Hey, we're going to get started in about 4 minutes. So if you want to get any refills or throw your stuff in the trash or get some more dessert, go for it. So we'll start in about 4 minutes. All right. Thank you very much. get started now. So, how'd y'all enjoy dinner? Excellent. Well, you all brought it. So, one of the great things about a potluck is you never know what you're going to get, and it's usually going to be good. So, thanks for coming tonight. And I want to thank Brenda and Kara for putting all this work together and their spouses. Let's give them a hand. So let me give you a little heads up what we're going to do. So I'll introduce our guests, our speakers tonight. And afterwards, after their talk, I'm going to walk around with a microphone because you might have some questions that they didn't address in their talk that you'd just be interested to hear. So we'll do that. They're going to have some pictures as part of their experience. Some of the pictures are right side up. Sometimes you might have to turn your head, but we'll just work with it. So anyway, I'm really excited to have Marlene and Egon share. Maybe I was looking on Facebook maybe in January or February this year, and I saw Marlene put a post that she's going to, do the Appalachian Trail, and I was like, wow, that's so inspiring. And some of you know, if you were a part of our church at that time, we prayed for them as they left, and they made some big plans to do that. You'll hear more of it. And so I'm just excited to hear we're glad you're back, and we're excited to hear the things you're going to share. So let's give Marlene and Egon a big round of applause.
I talk a lot, but I'm not a speaker. Walk over here. There we go. As I said, I'm not a speaker, although I talk a lot. By introduction.
I'm just saying, just hold it like a couple inches away,
Okay.
and they'll take care of you. So
All right,
I
super.
promise.
Thank you. By way of introduction, I'm step by step, and he is in tandem. And that is how one goes by a trail name on the trail. Very few people do we actually know their names. They could be called bear bait.
Bear bait. And you always have to guess, how did they get their name? How did they get their name? And also...
Here, why don't I give you both my...
There we go.
All right. So he's got you.
I got mine back.
How did they get their name, and what's their story? That to me was the exciting part. So bear bait, why do you think guys call bear bait? Well, he's a hiker that just started off, and his backpack was so big, and it had a lot of food in it, so obviously the bears went for him.
Yeah, and we did it slightly differently than in the way we say olden days, where the hike was the survival of the fittest, where they would camp and use their tents, stay in the shelters, stay not even in shelters, just stealth camp under trees, and you would have to survive the snow, the rain, and all of that. But now, especially the older generation, they do it differently because you can actually do the entire Appalachian Trail as a day hike. So, except for the two sections in the Smokies, you can get off at a road access, and that is what Egon did. He would drop me off at a point A, and I'd hike to point B, where he would meet me. And if it was a trailhead, we'd stay there, and I'd sleep in the comfort of the van. Be nice and warm, refreshed. Next morning, just get out and carry on hiking. And if we couldn't do that at a trailhead, then we would go ahead and stay in a campground. Often we afforded ourselves the luxury of a hotel room to get a good shower, a good bath, and a nice comfy bed. But tenting, I really don't know what that's all about. I had a tent. But most of the times, as I say, we were in the van, and the van had also got its own name. It was called, from our youngest son, Mobile Command Center, which I quickly renamed to Mobile Comfort Center, because that's really what it was. Egon would meet me on trail, lunchtime, I'd be able to have a good peanut butter sandwich. Breakfast and dinner, always on point, always a given, interested in the food. We lived on peanut butter, tuna packets, and noodles, like ramen noodles, or those that you get in a cup. And coffee, of course, all the time. And I'm supposed to talk, you see, I already digress. I'm supposed to talk about age. The trail is for any age group. And we saw that again this time too. I'm 72, which is, it is something to be proud of that I managed that. But right currently now there's a gentleman, he is 90 years old, his name is Greybeard, and you'll see his pictures going along, and I see they've been some of there up on the screen. He's 90, and he of course wants to set the record. He did it when he was 80. He's done lots of hiking and that, and he did it when he was 80, but then somebody surpassed that. So he said, no, now I'm going to do it again. And he's doing it over 12 months. That allows you to be called a through hiker. And you just have to do it in 12 areas. To do it in 12 consecutive months of the year. So it doesn't matter how you hike. He's also doing it fully supported like I did. And then the eldest lady was last year. I don't know her name, unfortunately, but she was 74. She just hiked, never knew that she really was the oldest one at the time. But this year, about 4 days ago, 80-year-old, her name is Betty. She is now the oldest lady who through hiked. So you have the older ages, and then you have father and son, father and daughter. You have college students that after they've graduated, they don't really know what they would like to do yet. They take a year off. You have them straight after high school. We had an 18-year-old hiking with her father, who is a Marine, and they were just awesome. Her name was Bumblebee, and he was Diesel. Again, different names. You don't know where they always originate from, but a great set. And that picture over there is a family of, I think it's 6 children. They have hiked the entire trail. They started off in April, and they are about to finish. They have maybe not even a week to go. And the youngest one is 8. And I don't know how those parents keep those children together, and especially but they have energy. I mean, they jump over the rocks. You know, we have to plod along. So age is not, it's just a number. You do the trail because you have a reason to do it. And the reasons are multiple. You're tired of the corporate job. That's, I would say, the vast majority of the younger generation do mention that the corporate jobs of working, so to say, from 8 to 5, but really putting in 60 hours a week is no longer for them. So they choose to leave that and find another avenue. You have some that have to overcome some grief, loss in a family. I, for example, the reason why I hiked is I love walking. It's a passion of mine. And I had read the book Grandma Gatewood. If anybody wants to read an inspiring story, she was a 67-year-old mother, and she just one day decided to go walking, and she left her family, didn't tell her where she was going, and hiked the entire trail with just not even a backpack, just a knapsack on her back. No extra clothing, no sleeping bag, no nothing, and relied on the people on the trail to help her out with food, or she'd eat the food that was available. That inspired me about 6-7 years ago. I read that book. And in December 2023, our youngest son comes at Christmas and says, "Mom, I'm hiking the Appalachian Trail. Without a beat, I'm there with you." And so got the books and everything and all the gear that I needed at that time, only for him to tell me in May of 24 he can't do that, he can't get off work. So I said to him, no, I'm committed, and of course I wouldn't have been able to do it without Egon, who I call my earthly protector. He was there with all the technology he wanted and enjoyed to see that I was safe on the road, on the trail. and on the road.
And it did come in handy
It
a couple of times.
Yeah.
You'll see on a slide as well.
Yeah.
So there's a tracker, she had a tracker, a little Garmin tracker, and I was able to see her like every 10 minutes, I got a ping.
Yeah, and so he could see when I went off trail, which happened quite often. At the beginning, he would text or call me and say, you're off trail. And I'd say, I know. Later on, he didn't say anything. And then I'd come back and I'd say, I went an extra 2 miles because I went off trail. He said, I saw that, but I wasn't going to say anything. So, and that was not the worst one. I mean, the big thing is don't panic. Was up Mount Washington. It was so foggy, and all you can follow are these cairns. They're just stacks of rocks, like every so often. You can see one cairn off from the next one. There are no blazes like this on the trees or on the rocks. You just have these cairns. But there are at least 10 to 20 trails in the White Mountains. And, of course, I will always take the wrong turn. Off I wandered, and then I didn't see. I just felt uneasy, watched my app, and then I saw I was off trail. Oh, a bit closer. Can you hear? Oh, all right, sorry. Okay. So I then backtracked. I always had to backtrack exactly the way that I went. Otherwise, that would have meant, getting lost even more. Call him and say, I'm lost, I'm off trail. He says, well, just take that turn. Not happening, have to go back where I came from. And then I just attached onto some other people. So there was a father with 2 young children. I said, do you mind if I hike with you? And then he saw to it that I got up to Mount Washington, all the mist and everything. And that's really was helpful. The hiker community is awesome. We had, I was just telling Scott about our younger generation. We often sort of give them a hard time. But those young people, whether they be in their 20s right up to, let's say, 40s, which I see as young, I'm still young too, but anyway. So the compassion, the kindness, the helpfulness, the giving of those people, of those youngsters was absolutely awesome. They would help all the time. And they enjoy the work, and as I say, maybe they show us how Christians should live. Their actions speak so much more than the words that they are, and that I'm always grateful for. And I've already forgotten all the things that I'm supposed to say. I was going to talk a bit about being older and staying active. I have been fortunate, and so has Egon, that we have been active all our life through school, and even after that. But these adventures that we have taken now in our retirement have never been planned before. It was not that we thought, once we retire, we'll do. They've just been spontaneous acts. And as I said, the Appalachian Trail was because of my younger son. And when you want to do something like that, or you'd like to be more active, or you'd like to have less pain, and I say that in parentheses, I hiked with a lady right at the end. We hiked together because it was advised not to do the 100-mile wilderness alone or to summit Katahdin alone. Always have somebody with you. And she suffers from, she did say rheumatoid arthritis, and she was on medication. When she ended the trip, she was off her medication. And she had been in touch with her doctor, and he had said to her, you can wean yourself off those tablets, and she felt marvelous. And I'm not going to say it works for everybody, but there are many cases where that can happen. But when you do it slowly. Like Egon and I, he had a sedentary, workaholic lifestyle when we were still younger, as most young people do. And I played tennis and that, and we then all of a sudden had a program in South Africa there, and it might be here too, where a doctor had a choice. He wanted sedentary people to join this program. It's called Walk for Life. And you started being as unfit as you wanted to be, and you started walking. And when I say walking, that's what we enjoyed. you have to find an activity that you like. I don't like the gym. Some people like the gym. But don't go and walk 5 miles the first day, because that second day you're going to hurt so much that you won't want to do it anymore. Or if you do 100 pounds weightlifting, I don't know what one does with weights, but anyway, so do it in small steps and then have a goal. Set yourself a goal. I want to walk 2 miles. Well, it doesn't have to be within a week. It could be within a month. But the big thing is set yourself a goal and then do it slowly as well. Not in any hurry, and you'll find you do feel good.
And find a partner.
What's that?
Find a partner to do it with.
Oh, find a partner. That always helps.
Commitment.
Sorry. Yeah, because Egon and I mean, we enjoyed running and we progressed that we ran many marathons and that, but we did it together and our relationship actually improved on that as well. And what else do we talk about the trail? Look at me. Oh, and being fit, yes, the physical part of of this whole experience was you grew stronger as you went along. Again, you know, people will say, oh, you walked. My average was, especially towards the end, was 15 miles a day. I did some 18, maybe even a 20. You manage that, you do it slowly. But I didn't start off that way. We started off with maybe 10, and of course you train a bit ahead, but not that much. The trail teaches you. When you do backpacking, I'd never backpacked before. I'm not really a hiker by nature. I'm a novice. I'll hike with groups maybe once or twice a month. But you bought your backpack, you put some weight in it, you increase the mileage, you increase the weight. And so it's all a slow process of going along. You have anything to say about while I gather my thoughts?
No.
Oh, looking at that, that was in New Jersey, the worst state to hike in at that moment when we were there. The mosquitoes were terrible, so then you just wear that head net. And funny enough, then they stay away from your whole body. Maybe it's just because they're not humming around your ears, but that net was awesome. Did you want to? Oh, there we go.
Here we go.
Oh, he has to show it. That's Egon.
Yeah, that was a saver. And then after that, we thought, okay, they're over. And then we got to Maine, and you get these black flies. Do they sting? Worse than the
Mosquitoes.
mosquitoes in what's Georgia? Yellow jackets.
Oh, yellow jackets, yeah. Those, but we were again blessed, not much rain. The weather was perfect the entire way. And so that was about, let me have a look. All right, injuries, yes, that's one thing that you can't control. What we learned on this trail is you are not in control at all. We know this, we think we want to be in control, but we're not. The only thing that you have no control over is an injury. You could fall. I was like a 5-year-old, especially going up McAfee Knob, as I see it right there, rocks and boulders and climbing down rungs, but I was so energized that I never took a rest day, and I hiked like 14 days non-stop, and I increased the mileage. And then the body said, I'm sorry, your body doesn't do that. And so I had to go off for several weeks for that to heal, and luckily I did, and had no problems after that. And then the other one, when it rains, the rocks tend to be slippery, but you're so careful. But right at the end of one of the downhills, my foot slipped, and I sat with full weight on my tailbone. Saw many stars, then I sort of felt all parts, I was okay. And there again, all I did there was, because like a rib, that you can't do anything with a tailbone injury or ache, I just reduced the weight of my backpack. And it healed, I would say, 2-3 weeks, and I was fine again. And luckily, nothing else. Yeah. But then I wanted to say...
Here's a typical picture of the some cairns and stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's up in the Whites, where you go up and you just walk along the ridge at the top, but you always climb up and down. That was the hardest part of the trail, was the Whites, yeah. And then going back to the injuries and how you can cope with that, it is all a mindset. 90%, if not more, of the entire trail is your mind. If you have a positive mindset, you're more than halfway there. Again, there wasn't one day we didn't get up at 4:30 and complain, say we didn't want to get up. It was just part of our routine. And there wasn't one day, I think, that I came back and said this was an awful day, or I might have had a scary day, but none of the days were awful. I cannot describe how it was totally unexpected, the feelings that I got overwhelmed with during the trail. And that comes to the spiritual part, as I say. And I mentioned that to Scott, that had the greatest impact on me. And it was just there. You are in actual awe and wonder of, number one, you're thankful that you can do it, and then just the beauty of this trail, and again, the people of it on it. I just want to refer to some things that that I've written down so that I don't forget that. Because that was, as I say, the most important.
Kind of while she's looking, I mean, it's kind of the same. You haven't really seen any pictures, but some of the pictures you can see, I mean, literally she walks into the forest and like 2 seconds later you don't see her anymore. So you have two choices, or I had two choices. You know, you can either worry yourself to death, think about all the stuff that can go on, you know, whether it's animals or bears or what have you, snakes, or you can just say, there's nothing I can do about it, just hand over to God, and away she goes. And that, to me, was the turning point, because you always still, you kind of give it away, but then you kind of want to, you know, carry on controlling it. And that's one thing that I learned there, is just hand over, and that's it. And you have a really smooth day.
Yeah. And as I said, we have a saying on the trail, is that the trail provides. Many people don't appreciate it if you were to speak about your beliefs or whatever. So one tends not to talk about it in that manner. But the trail provides, I don't believe there is one hiker that doesn't have a spiritual moment or epiphany while they are on the trail. So to me, it was always a case of God will provide. I walked every day knowing that He would take care of me, and it's building up trust. And you do falter in that all the time, but you just have to trust that He will see to it that if you fall, you won't hurt yourself badly, or that He will guide you along the way if you do take a wrong turn. And as I said,
Talking about the wrong turn. There we go.
Yeah.
I was kind of at the whites. So she took off at the bottom there, and you can see she went for 10 minutes.
To the right.
To the right. And like she said, I didn't call her because I didn't want to frighten her. And it was, you saw some of those pictures. Dense fog. I couldn't see from here to the table, and it's amazing how quickly you get disorientated. But anyway, so she called me, and I said no. So she backtracked and then carried on.
Yeah, so a thick line is me backtracking and then carrying
yeah,
on.
there's my favorite picture.
That's his favorite picture. It wasn't the Washington Tower up there. It was. There were lots of Washington Towers or monuments along the trail. And we always say his monster with eyes.
There she is, keeping the speed limit.
And there are some of these things that I wanted to mention about where I felt God's presence because it was so strong. And this also, again, to me is something not strange. It's something new to me to be able to share how I felt with you, because we grew up in church, but we were taught you don't talk about your feelings. You go into your bedroom and you quiet and you pray there, and you don't really necessarily talk about it. That has changed since we've been here. And so I'd love to share with you the first experience I had was here in the south, and I was going through the trees, just minding my own business, walking, when all of a sudden, just the sun came through, and I just had this warm feeling knowing God's presence and feeling it as the love of family and friends that were thinking of me and encouraging me along the way. And those were the thoughts I had that day, and you wonder, how does that happen? But it's there. And then another one was, and thank you for the YouVersion app, because that YouVersion app, I guess, was there for a reason while I was hiking too. I read a devotion one day, and you read about the Israelites going out and getting their daily manna. There was just food for the day. Never really much of an impact. People just didn't take the food that they had for the day. They were greedy. That's what I always sort of saw it as a childlike story. But on the trail, I was only given and only needed to take what I needed for that day. I didn't have to worry about what I had done yesterday or what I'd not done yesterday, and I did not have to worry what was going to happen tomorrow. All I had to do was go from A to B and trust that Egon would be at the destination. That does sometimes not happen. I was hiking and I get to the point.
There's a lot of river roads, I can tell you that. So although you meet at River Road, it might not be the same one.
And that's what happened, because there again, I hiked and I got to the point and I called him. I said, "Where are you?" He says, "I'm here." I said, "No, you're not here. I'm here." And then he found out that we had marked one of our mile markers on our app. We had marked incorrectly. And so I still had 4 miles to go, which would have meant doing 17, 18 miles for the day. So he said he could come around and pick me up. I said no. Took out the app and saw that the terrain was flattish and it was along a river where I was going. So there again, I was provided with the perfect terrain, beautiful river next to me, and those 4 miles were nothing. And it sounds like 4 miles doesn't sound much maybe, but if you've hiked quite a bit, 1 mile can be a lot. And the one that really struck me was when I was hiking in the Whites. That really was the toughest. I was going a steep decline, and it was like a rock slide, just a jumble of rocks. And then there was water running like a river, and I thought to myself, you can't have the Appalachian Trail passing over a river. I felt uneasy. And kept on taking out my far out app. No, you're on track. But the further I went down, because I was always imagining if I'm got wrong, then I have to go up these rocks again. And my mind just ran amok. And by the time I got to the bottom, I was just a nervous wreck, so to say. So I sat down quietly and just said, "Just help me." And with that, self-service, ping, ping, and then messages came through. And I had one from Egon, and then one from my best friend in South Africa, asking me, just saying, checking in, how you doing? I could answer them and tell them how I was feeling, and with their encouragement, it was awesome. I could carry on. And I hadn't walked maybe 100 yards, and 2 hikers came up behind me. And they said, "No, you're fine, you're on the right track." Well, then my whole life was sunshine again. Amazing what your mind can do to you. And the other one was also, we had hiked with, not really hiked with them, they kept on meeting us because Egon had the internet. So they could get coffee and they could have the internet if they met us. So anyway, one of those hikers, he was doing his own hike. They separated eventually as well, and each one did their own, finished in their own time. But he was just enjoying himself. Let me call him Toasty. And I hadn't heard it for a while, and I told him when I got back on trail after my injury, I told all 3 of them I'm back on trail, and they were happy, and each one was in their own place. And he posted when he went into New Hampshire at that border, and he posted there about how people are commenting that he's taking so long, because he had started on January 1st, and he was now even behind me, and but he was going off trail, going into New York and watching a show, or going and seeing something else, and just enjoying the sights along the way. And we all say, hike your own hike. If that's what you want to do, it doesn't matter if you take 12 months or whether you take 4 months. But he wrote in there the reason why he was doing it this way too. He was afraid to finish. And the reason why he was afraid to finish was because he didn't want to go back into that dark life that he had left behind. He's 38, drinking. He saw himself as being fat. I guess people told him that. He'd been depressed. He thought, what is the reason that I am on this earth? What's my purpose on this earth? So he had a whole story behind it that we didn't know about when we actually had met him. And I privately communicated with him and said, thank you for sharing, because it gives you insight into people. So when you hike or when you see people, a smile or just a hello will make a difference possibly in that person's life. Or he made a difference in mine by sharing that story. And a small item, we also had this, on my backpack you'll see it, you get a pass to summit Mount Katahdin. It tells you which hiker you are. I was the 280th northbound hiker to summit, and I was the 1059th to actually, come up, because day hikers go up to Mount Katahdin as well. And it's just a piece of plastic. It's of no significance. It's of sentimental value to me. And I thought I'd lost it, because when we unpacked out my bag and everything, it wasn't there. But somehow in my heart I felt it's okay. It's just a piece of plastic. I have a picture of it, so I've got that. And Roxanne, the one lady who had hiked with me, I had dropped it in her car, and she let me know. And I thought, God, it's good. There's that little thing that I can have joy with. So really, it is a spiritual journey. Each one experiences every hike very differently. There are so many factors that influence your hike this day, and so to anybody who hikes it tomorrow, that same hike will have a different feeling. But it's an experience. I can answer questions, and that's what I'll put over to all of you. If you have questions that you want to ask specifically about, I'll talk about my children too, about the hike itself, things that you'd like to know what one did. But it was the most awe-inspiring spiritual journey for me. And what made it better are those people that came to us during the hike. That's my oldest son. He and his whole family came right when I hit Katahdin. So the day before I summited, they were there, and their little children happened for the first time to see a pit toilet, and that was horrific for them. And to see the shelter where we spent the night before there's the whole family. We have Graham, Brock, and Oliver. And then I had in the Whites, and Peter, yes. And then on the Whites, my daughter Claudia and her 4 boys and her husband Greg, they hiked 4 days in the terrain there they are. They have 4 boys, they're all with Als, Levi, Lincoln, Luke, and Liam. So they hiked with me, and my youngest son, he was the first one to come in Massachusetts. And he hiked with me, and it was just the 4th of July. They were that 4th of July weekend. He came up and he hiked with me. And that is something one can be so thankful for. And now I would like to say thank you to Central. Your prayers were felt. Don't ever think any of the prayers weren't felt. You could feel, it sounds weird maybe saying that, but it is, you could feel that there were people behind you supporting you, and for all the messages that I got on Facebook. Thank you so much. So it really is a big, big thank you, because without all of your support, I also couldn't do it. Thank you.
So this is a blaze. You follow them all the way from the bottom to the top.
All right, so we got to maybe bring this down just a little bit, if you don't mind. We're going to go around with just any questions. We have a couple minutes left. And following, I encourage you to come up here and look at all their stuff. I think that'd be good. So if you have a question, just raise your hand. I'll come around with a microphone. All right, Peggy?
I have two questions. How did you do the tandem with the 100-mile wilderness?
Oh, yes, the 100-mile wilderness, people say you have to have food for 10 days. Or there was one that they have one resupply, or people can drop off food for you after 5 days. That has totally changed, Peggy. Egon met us every 15 miles. The last day we had a longer distance. It was 18 miles, but that was just because how the trail goes. But so he was able to have a road access every single way. And then there's that hostel in Monson, Shores Hostel. They actually take the hikers. You stay at the hostel. They will drive you the 15 miles, and you hike back. The next day, they take you to that point, you hike the next 15, they pick you up there, and they take you the first 60 miles. After that, they hand you over to another shuttle driver that is more north. So you can do the entire 100-mile wilderness by sleeping in a bed every night.
That sounds really good.
I did that.
I like that. Another question, did you ever meet Smokey the trail cat?
No, I did not.
You didn't, okay.
Smoky trail cat.
And thank you. Y'all, I could use your prayers. I'm going back on trail Sunday, and I'll be on for 2 weeks. And it's always hard to get on and off.
Yeah.
So I could covet your prayers too.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and Peggy's actually done half of it, right? Almost half of the Appalachian Trail.
Oh,
Okay,
awesome.
so be praying for Peggy. Anyone else have a question? All right, Ron, you're up here. I saw you first.
Marlene, I'll get away with it. What did you do physically to prepare before you started the walk on the trip?
What I did was here locally, I would just hike. I started off with a backpack with just a few things in it. And then I gradually made the backpack reach 20 to 25 pounds. And at the same time, I will also increase it. The first time I took out a backpack, it was maybe a 2-mile walk. But then after that, you then make it further. And I think I never really hiked more than 10 miles around here. The mileage started increasing after 10 miles. Once you get the trail, you start at 10 miles and then you see how you feel. Yeah.
I was just going to ask if you ran into any bears or...
Yes. No bears, and I was determined not to meet any bears. I kept on saying there will be no bears. And you go through the New York Zoo, the trail runs through there. I didn't even see the bear that goes you walk right past the cage. Because I was at the zoo entrance too early. So I had to take the other trail outside the zoo to get past it. So no bears. I did see a moose, but from a distance. You stay away. And the snakes, people somehow get attracted to those. They always want to see them. But you get warned. Other hikers will tell you, watch, there are snakes, or I met a snake, or I saw a snake, not I met one. But normally they're on the ledges where it's nice and warm, and you'll have 4 or 5 intertwined. I would ask them to give me a picture. They would airdrop their photo, and then that's what I saw. But then on one spot on the trail, I actually heard the rattle. And you just automatically, well, not you, but one just automatically thinks, freezes. And then I just glanced hoping it was not under my legs. But it was at a distance, and that rattle kept on going. And so I slowly took out my phone, of course, took a video, and then I walked way around it, and its head went way around with me. But then that was all, no harm.
Good question.
I saw bears, but I was covered.
No Bigfoot either. You didn't see Bigfoot?
What's that?
Bigfoot? No Bigfoot?
No, I saw many depictions of him.
Okay, I bet you did. Any other questions? Questions here? Yeah.
How many boots did you wear
went through, I have my fourth was the last one, the fourth pair. Yeah, they wear also, I think, from the inside. After my injury, I put in insoles, and they lasted a bit longer, but they typically say they last 500 miles per pair. And they do, because especially in Pennsylvania and further north, the rocks, you just tear them up by going over the rocks. But so 4 pairs of boots.
I mean, that's Mount Katahdin, so you can kind of get an idea of the rocks when you get above tree line as well.
Yeah.
All right, got a question here?
Did you hike in boots or running shoes?
In boots, just purely for the ankles. But running, I would say running shoes or the shoes without the ankle support, I would say is the majority of people nowadays. I even had 2 that were hiking with sandals. Yes, and I said, with sandals, don't you stub your toe? He says, no, the foot fits onto the sandal and they find it more comfortable. So one was a gentleman and the other one was a lady. Yeah, I would never do that. Oh, you want to say? This is what the typical, I have a sock, and I was plagued by calluses and blisters on my pinky. And it's the most painful thing, the smallest toe, but so within the, that's over here.
I'll just talk about the
Yeah.
gaiter. This is one of the best things they ever invented. The gaiter, it's called a gaiter. So you kind of put it on there, and it keeps all the stuff from falling into your shoes.
Yeah, that really does help. It goes over the socks. But these are toe socks. So if you have problems with your pinkies or blisters or that, each toe, of course, is individual. And then I put the sock over it. And after my first encounter with blisters and that, I never had any blisters or painful toes.
I got one last question, then is there a question over here?
Is it?
Go ahead, Rule. That's all right.
Is it true that you have to worry about ticks and Lyme disease in the
Yes.
Northeast, or is that just a myth?
No, ticks, definitely. Lyme disease is something that many do get if they're not careful. I was lucky enough not to have that. I put insect spray on every morning, and mainly because of the mosquitoes. And then the one day I said to Egon, I'm not going to put on insect spray. When the mosquitoes start, I'll put it on then. Well, lo and behold, I feel something on my leg, and what is it? A tick. So after that, you put on the insect spray, whether there were ticks or no ticks, but they are up north, and some people are really plagued by them.
And especially when the grass is longer.
Yeah.
And you can saw it on some of the slides. But that's another guy's trail name is Tick Magnet. Like 6 of them.
That's a good name. I like that.
Yeah, it is.
I do want to ask you this, like, what, from your whole experience and now you're back,
Yeah.
what will you kind of take from your whole experience? How has that changed you? And what will you take kind of as you look to your future?
It has humbled me. It has made me aware of having to be more tolerant of other people, and not that I wasn't in any way, not tolerating them, but we are all here on this earth to live our own life that is actually planned by God, as we like to be in control. And to me, just be there for other people. As I say, we always, it was also something I put in my notes, is that we always pray and want to help the needy and the poor, and that is what we should be doing. But when we pray, let's pray with gratitude, that we are maybe in the right place to help somebody who is in need. Not just that they get helped, but let's also be a tool to help people that are in need, and they don't have to be necessarily the poor and the widowed, and as we always say, but any person might need help. As I say, just a smile. This young guy has his own flourishing business. Seemed all together, and yet he wasn't. It's that, and it's the humility that you get taught. Every time I fell, I said to myself, fall, that means you're being proud. There's still pride being taken away from you and you falling flat on your face. You know, and you make jokes with yourself, but it is. It's the humility and the humbleness. And you, to me, what I'm taking along is, I did write that down. Let me have a look so that I get the wording right.
Yeah,
really.
while she's looking,
Yeah, Egon, for you, what would that
yeah, I
be
think
for you?
I kind of said what mine was, is just, not trying to control stuff, and just let go. And it's like they say, don't forgive others because they need forgiveness, but you need peace. And that's kind of what I got out of the whole thing.
Oops, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I just wrote here, had no two hikers experienced the walk the same. Emotions, weather, health, trail conditions are different for each, but the common goal is to reach Mount Katahdin and hopefully achieve the goal as to why one set off on this journey in the first place. For me, I got so much out of this journey. It has humbled me time and time again, filled me with joy and gratitude. I think gratitude is most probably one of the biggest things, that I'm healthy enough, that I was able to do it, that I could do it with Egon. I mean, that alone is a blessing in itself. If I just look around me, about in general, it is a blessing. And again, thank you for all your prayers. That meant a lot.
I've often said, if we could take the camaraderie, attitude, conversations, on trail, off trail, and put it into the rest of the country, we'd be in a really good spot. That's kind of what we got out of the whole thing. And I mean, the trail provides, that's for sure. Also, I kind of met a couple of different people, like being at the trailhead and watched them come through. So you have what they call trail angels. So, you give them water. Some people were actually out of water, and I was able to help them as well. And snacks and food and stuff, or a ride into town, or a ride back to the trail and things like that. So those were some of the things that I did. And the other thing that I learned from that actually was preferably take them back to the trail, not away from the trail, because we had a stinky and we had a what a day.
All right, well, I just want to say on behalf of all of us here, we felt like when we saw your posts that we were there with you. And thanks for inspiring us tonight. And we're excited for what the next adventure will be for you guys. So let's thank them again for speaking. Yeah. Thank you very much. Right after this, if you'd like to talk with them or look at some of their gear, I invite you to do that. I do want to give you a heads up. This was the first of our different opportunities to kind of grow, and this was a suggestion that came. And so actually in October, we're going to do another one. It's going to be at 6 o'clock, and I think we got a picture for that. Ron Johnson, who some of you might know, has been attending our church. This was actually the number one that this congregation suggested, was you wanted to hear about how do I grow older without growing old? And Ron has been attending our church. He is a clinical psychologist and a pastor for 40 years. He retired here from the Memphis area, and he's been worshiping with us for about a year or so. And when we pitched this to him, he said, that seems a pretty negative title. So you need to change that. So he came up with, how do we flourish in your 60s and beyond? So I think he'll speak uniquely from a spiritual side and also kind of a clinical side that will help us. It'll be at 6 o'clock here in the worship center. So thanks again for coming out, and be sure to talk to Egon and Marlene. Thanks. Have a good night.